Emily always believes that true love will come at the right time and with the right person. One warm summer afternoon, she received an invitation to attend a BBQ party organized by her close friend. She had no intention of meeting anyone special. She simply wanted to enjoy the outdoors after a stressful week of work at the marketing company. However, everything changed since she met David. David appeared with a shining smile and charismatic confidence. He's the type of person who commands immediate attention from everyone in the room, but not in a showy or manipulative way. David's humor and charisma made everyone laugh. Even Emily, who is naturally a bit reserved, is no exception. A small incident occurred when Emily accidentally spilled a glass of water on David's shirt while walking past to greet a group of friends. The surprise made her hastily apologize, but David just laughed and said, "Surely it was part of the romantic play, right?" That statement confused Emily, but at the same time made her feel relieved. David not only made her laugh, but also made her feel approachable, a feeling of comfort that she had never had in previous relationships. As time passed, their conversation lasted longer than expected. Emily couldn't deny that she felt special when she was with David. He is not only talented, but also a very knowledgeable and insightful person. They quickly found common ground in conversations about books, music, and future plans. After just one evening, Emily felt like she had known David for a long time. That feeling was reinforced when they started dating. Their relationship develops naturally, without forcing or worrying. David cared for Emily with a devotion she had never experienced. Every time we met, he always found a way to make her smile, make her feel special. They spend time together, share small stories in life, and make plans for the future. Gradually, Emily began to think that this was the man she had been waiting for so many years. Their wedding day was simple but warm. It was a small wedding, with only family and close friends, but it was a day that Emily will never forget. She clearly feels that she is entering a new life, where love and sharing will guide everything. During the wedding, Emily and David exchanged promises to overcome all difficulties together, whether small or big. However, something unexpected happened. After the wedding ended, David began to show a different side that Emily had never seen before. One evening, during a conversation about finances, David asked her to sign a prenuptial agreement. Emily felt quite surprised because she did not think their relationship needed to have financial constraints. David explains that his job in the financial industry requires asset protection. Although not completely comfortable, Emily understood the reason and agreed, because she believed in their love and thought that feelings could not be controlled by money. Life continued to happen, but Emily gradually felt a distance between the two of them. David became less talkative, and previously cheerful conversations began to become quiet. She felt like she was gradually distancing herself from the husband she loved, and this worried her. When Emily wakes up one morning, she decides to prepare a special breakfast for David, hoping to ease the tension that has been building between them. However, David's reaction was not what she expected. He demanded that breakfast be prepared to perfection, and when she failed to respond, he did not hesitate to criticize. The initially simple requests have now become strong orders. David began to exhibit a controlling and demanding attitude, especially regarding finances. She realized that she was shouldering a big responsibility, and no one appreciated her efforts. She even discovered that David had not contributed to their joint fund for the past few months. All expenses, including rent, electricity, and water bills, fall into her hands. This makes Emily feel extremely stressed and dissatisfied. One day, when Emily decided to talk about finances, David not only did not listen, but also bluntly responded with cold and disrespectful words. He said, "You are just a wife, not a maid. Why should I pay your debt?" Feeling offended, Emily realized that this relationship was no longer what she thought it would be. David's words came as a shock, making her feel like she was no longer herself. Since that tense conversation, Emily felt like everything between her and David had changed. The relationship that she once trusted and hoped for is now gradually falling apart. Although she still loves David, the lack of respect he shows increasingly makes her feel confused and worried about her future. Every day, she faces increasingly difficult demands from David, criticism, and increasing financial pressure. Emily begins to realize that she is no longer herself, but has become someone dependent on others, with no say in her own life. The love that she thought would help them overcome everything now only leaves disagreements and disappointments. One evening, while preparing dinner for the two of them, Emily felt tired as David continued to demand that everything be perfect. She tried her best to create a special meal, but when it was placed on the table, he just looked at the dish and sighed. "Can't you do anything right?" "This is not my favorite dish." Those cold words were like a knife cutting deep into her heart. She couldn't understand why the man she loved and married could be so heartless. In the days that followed, the feeling of fatigue increased, not only because of work, but also because of family life. Although Emily tried to keep the family's peace, David no longer seemed to see her efforts. She feels like everything is falling apart, and there seems to be no way to save this relationship. One day, when she discovered that David was no longer contributing to their joint fund, everything suddenly became clear. She worked hard, earning money to sustain her life, but he did not contribute anything. All expenses, from rent to living expenses, fall into her hands. A feeling of helplessness and disappointment rose in Emily's heart. One evening, while David was watching TV, Emily decided to confront him. She said calmly, even though she was very confused, "David, we need to talk about finances. I have had to shoulder everything while you contributed nothing." David kept looking at the TV screen, not paying attention to her, then replied indifferently, "This house is mine. You are just my wife. Why do you have to worry about finances?" Those words made Emily's heart break. She couldn't believe that David could look down on her so much. She couldn't bear it anymore, and her feeling of helplessness increased. She tried to stay calm, but then a feeling of frustration and tension arose. "David, I'm not a maid. I'm your wife, and I can't continue to put up with the way you treat me like this," she said, her tone firm. But David only smiled faintly and replied, "You're just doing too much. If you don't like it, then go out and live. There's nowhere to go anyway." Those words were like a strong punch to Emily's spirit. She felt dizzy, as if she were standing in the middle of an abyss that she couldn't escape from. She doesn't want to live in a relationship like this anymore, but she doesn't know what to do next. The long nights that followed, Emily lay in the dark and thought about her life. She cannot continue living like this, but is afraid of facing the reality that she may have to leave the husband she still loves. But the more she thought, the more she realized that she could not continue living in a marriage without respect and love. She decided to change. Early one morning, when Emily woke up, she felt fatigue filling her heart. She no longer feels happy in this house anymore. Every day, everything becomes more difficult. She decided to face David, even though she knew that this conversation would not be easy. When Emily tells David she needs some time to think about their future, David reacts harshly. He said loudly, "What do you want? Don't play around. We're already married. Don't think you can leave so easily." Emily looked into David's eyes, and for the first time in months, she felt strong. She said firmly, I can't continue living like this. I'm not myself anymore. I won't live with someone who doesn't respect me anymore. That was the moment Emily knew it was time for her to leave. She couldn't bear it any longer. In her heart, the decision to leave was not easy, but it was something she had to do to free herself. She packed her things, signed the divorce papers, and left the house she thought was her home. Guilt and fear mixed together, but she knew it was the right decision. Although it's unclear what the future holds, at least Emily has regained control of her life. She walked out, no longer afraid of criticism or unreasonable demands. Emily is no longer someone who depends on others. She began her journey of freedom, although there were many challenges ahead, but at least she began to take control of her life. And that's the most important thing. Since leaving the home she shared with David, Emily feels like she is starting a new chapter in her life. Although life outside is somewhat difficult and unstable, at least she no longer has to endure the disregard and financial pressure from David. She found a small apartment on the outskirts of the city where she could start over. The first days of living alone, Emily felt relieved. She no longer had to worry about pleasing David or doing something to avoid his unreasonable criticism. Every day, she wakes up with a feeling of freedom, no longer feeling like she is bound by endless demands and pressures. Although she still felt confused, Emily knew she was on the right track. Life wasn't perfect, but she began to feel that she could make her own decisions and control her own future. One afternoon, while sitting in her new apartment, Emily received a call from Rachel, the boss who helped her find a place to live. Rachel knows Emily is going through difficult days and offers to help her one step further. Emily, I heard about the housing assistance program the city is implementing. This is your chance to settle in quickly. I will help you apply. Emily knew this was an opportunity not to be missed. With Rachel's help, she applied, and just a week later, she received notification that she had been accepted into the program. This was a big boost for her. Not only that, Emily also found a new job, a more stable job and a higher salary, helping her to be financially independent without having to worry about past debts. But despite all of this, a part of Emily's heart still couldn't be completely at peace. She still felt anxious about the marriage ending. Part of her felt guilty thinking about David and the years gone by. But then one day, while drinking coffee alone, Emily began to rethink her life. She realized that everything had changed. She was no longer dependent on anyone, no longer had to live according to the wishes of others. She wondered if by getting rid of the burdens of the past, she could find herself. She is no longer afraid when thinking about the future. She began to feel much stronger. A week later, when things were starting to calm down, Emily received another phone call, this time from David's mother, Margaret. When she heard her voice, Emily couldn't help but feel annoyed. She had been constantly criticizing her all this time, and now she was calling with a voice full of contempt. Emily, I just heard that my son divorced you. I don't understand why you left and why you refuse to acknowledge what David has done for you. Emily's anger rose, but she tried to stay calm. Margaret, I have nothing to explain. I had my reasons for leaving. Thank you for your concern, but I am no longer the weak girl you think I am. After that call, Emily felt more relieved than ever. She was able to stand up and was no longer haunted by criticism from those around her. She stepped out of the darkness and found her own light. A week later, while walking in the park, Emily met Max, a kind man she met during a work collaboration. Max was the one who listened to her share about her past and constantly encouraged her. Not only did he have an open heart, but he was also someone who had the ability to listen, something Emily had never found in David. They started talking more, sharing stories about life and finding common ground in many areas. Gradually, a gentle but deep affection arises between them. Emily no longer feels alone. With Max, she doesn't have to worry or try to change herself. Their relationship developed naturally, without coercion or anxiety. Emily feels peace during walks with Max when he shares life experiences and simple but meaningful things. One evening, as they sat on a chair in Max's yard, he turned to her and said, "I'm really happy to see you again, Emily." It was a coincidence, but sometimes life brings surprises that we can't expect. Emily smiled, looking at Max with grateful eyes. "Me too, Max. Life has its twists and turns, and I think this is one of my best turns yet." Their conversation went on forever, and Emily felt a peace she had never felt before. She is no longer afraid of the past, but instead has faith in the future. Gradually, Emily realized that she was no longer dependent on anyone. She not only found herself, but also found a new life, a life in which she can make her own decisions and continue writing her own story. That feeling of freedom helped Emily grow strong, and she began to prepare for the next steps in life. A week later, when Emily was cleaning her apartment, she realized she didn't need to look back anymore. She was strong enough to face any challenge and confidently move forward. Everything has changed, and Emily knows that life ahead will be full of excitement and surprises. She was ready to accept all of that. Emily's new life passed smoothly, with a sense of freedom she had never imagined before. She no longer had to endure criticism from David or pressure from his family. She no longer lives in a relationship that feels suffocated, and now she can breathe easily and freely take control of her life. Even so, thoughts about the past still sometimes made her heart ache. One weekend afternoon, while cleaning her new apartment, Emily received a call from David. She suddenly felt worried. This was the first time he called her since their divorce. Emily looked at the phone for a moment, then decided to answer. "Emily?" David's voice came through the phone, cold but a little pleading. "I want to see you. Need to talk about something." Emily hesitated for a moment. She didn't know how to face him, but after thinking it over, she decided that it was time to settle things once and for all. She can't forever live and worry about the past. She needed to face what happened. Emily arranged to meet David at a small cafe where they had sat together many times before everything changed. When she entered the shop, she realized that things were no longer the same. Those tables and chairs no longer evoke warm memories, but instead are an empty space, just like her mood. David was already sitting at a table near the window. He was still the same as before. His face was cold, but his eyes were completely different. Emily hadn't seen that look in his eyes for a long time, and this time she noticed a change in him. David no longer looked confident or overbearing like before, but rather insecure, as if he was facing something he couldn't solve. "Are you okay?" David spoke up when he saw Emily sitting down across from him. His voice seemed tired, but also full of guilt. Emily took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I'm fine. What about you?" That question was not a concern, but just a way for her to confirm that she had found herself again. "I know you're mad at me," David began. "I have nothing to defend, but I was wrong. I thought I could control everything, but now I realize that I've lost you." Emily looked into David's eyes, feeling like a part of her past was coming back. She no longer felt strong emotions like before. Instead, it's fatigue. "David, you don't understand that the problem isn't just what you do, but the way you look down on me. You think I will forever endure everything just for love. But you were wrong. I was wrong to think that love could fix everything," Emily said in a determined voice. "I used to love you very much, but I cannot continue to live in a relationship where I am not respected." These words rang out in the quiet space of the cafe, and even though she was no longer in love, Emily felt a little relieved. She no longer felt fear or guilt. David was silent for a moment, as if he was struggling with his own thoughts. Finally, he spoke. "I'm sorry, Emily. I'm really sorry for everything I did. I don't deserve you." "You're so unworthy," Emily said, but there was no longer any resentment in her voice. She gave up everything. "But I can't save us anymore. And I don't want to continue living in the past either." After that meeting, Emily felt that part of her past was truly closed. She doesn't need to find a way to explain or apologize anymore. Their relationship was over, and she was ready to start a new chapter in her life. In the days that followed, Emily's life continued to change in a positive direction. She no longer has to live in worry or fear about things that haven't happened yet. She found a new job, one that she loves and can master. She no longer felt the suffocation of responsibilities that no one appreciated, and every day she felt freedom. One morning, while walking in the park near her house, Emily met her again, Max. They walked together and talked about future plans. Max was not only a friend, but also someone who made her feel peaceful and happy. Emily's life is no longer filled with fear or torment about the past. She has learned that, sometimes, what matters is not what is lost, but what remains and the new opportunities that await. A month later, Emily received a call from Rachel, who has always supported her throughout the past time. "Emily, I'm so happy to see you were able to find yourself again. You're finally in control of your life." Those words made Emily feel like she had really changed. She no longer feels like a victim of a painful past. Instead, she has become a strong and confident woman, ready to take on new challenges. She no longer looks back, but only looks forward to the future, where she can continue to write her own story. Emily knows she will never go back to her old life. She has escaped the shadow of her past, and now she is proud of the path she has chosen. Since stepping away from her painful past, Emily feels freedom in every breath. She no longer has to live in invisible fears, no longer has to worry about things beyond her control. Every morning when she wakes up in her new apartment, she feels like she's starting over. Every corner of the room and the newly purchased items brought her a strange but also exciting feeling. She no longer feels loneliness or deprivation, but instead appreciates the simple moments in life. Even so, sometimes thoughts about the past still make her heart heavy. David is still a part of her life, even though she is divorced and has made a break with the past. One evening, while sitting by the window watching the streetlights outside, Emily couldn't help but remember the old days, when the happy moments with David seemed like forever. But then she realized those memories were in the past, and she could not live forever in their darkness. She needed to move forward, build a new life for herself. Still, there's one thing Emily can't stop thinking about: whether she's strong enough to not get stuck in her old feelings, and what her new life will bring her. One day, while walking in the park, she met him again, Max. He is still the person who is always by her side, sharing her thoughts and feelings during difficult times. Max was the first person to make her feel safe and secure about herself. The conversations between them were always smooth, not forced, and it seemed they had found each other in a new world without pain or the burden of the past. One day, when they sat drinking coffee at a familiar shop, Max looked at Emily with affectionate eyes. "Emily, I'm so happy to see you find yourself again. I always believe that you can overcome anything." Emily smiled, but she still had an uneasy feeling in her heart. "I thank you for your support, but I can't deny that, even though things are getting better, I still feel a little incomplete." Max looked at her knowingly. The important thing is that you have found your path. As for the rest, they will come when you are truly ready. Max's words were an encouragement, and Emily began to feel relief. She no longer has to worry about the past anymore. She realized that continuing to live in the past would only keep her from moving forward. One day, Emily decided to come see Rachel to thank her for always helping during the past time. Rachel, I don't know how to thank you. Without you, I definitely wouldn't have been able to get through this. Rachel smiled and patted her shoulder. Don't say that, Emily. You've done everything you need to do. I'm just the one giving advice. You're the one who decides your life. Rachel's words made Emily feel really strong. She no longer needs anyone else to validate her worth. She overcame it all on her own. That feeling of freedom is truly wonderful. After her conversation with Rachel, Emily felt a new source of energy fill her heart. She no longer felt like someone dependent on others. She has learned how to live independently, freely, and not be bound by unworthy things. A month later, when life had gradually stabilized, Emily received a call from David. She no longer feels scared or confused when she hears his name. In fact, she had prepared herself for every possibility. Emily, I want to see you. I know I no longer have any rights in your life, but I still want to apologize to you for everything. This time, when she heard David's voice, Emily did not feel pain or hurt. She just felt a strange calmness, as if she had let go of everything. She decided to meet him again, not because she still had feelings or wanted to seek explanations, but because she had completely gotten over what happened. During that meeting, David constantly apologized and admitted his mistakes, but Emily just gently responded, David, I don't need your apology anymore. I've been through enough. We are all responsible for our decisions. That meeting ended in silence, but Emily felt nothing but relief. She no longer tormented or worried about the past. After leaving her meeting with David, Emily looks at her new life and feels that she has truly grown up. She no longer has to live in the shadows of the past or unhealthy relationships. She has found herself again, and now she can decide everything for herself about the future. She is no longer afraid of the challenges ahead, but instead, she is ready to accept all the opportunities that life brings. The feeling of freedom and power in her hands makes Emily realize that as long as she is strong and believes in herself, she can build any life she wants. She is no longer dependent on anyone else, and she has found true happiness. Happiness that comes from herself. Emily smiled when thinking about all that had passed, but there was no longer any regret or regret. She walked steadily on her path, ready to accept new things, because she has learned that true happiness only comes when we accept ourselves and know how to live for ourselves. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We've got many more emotional and powerful stories coming your way. Join us as we dive deeper into life's most compelling journeys and explore the real struggles and triumphs that make us who we are. Stay tuned for more heartfelt stories that will inspire and connect us all. Subscribe now and let's share these powerful moments together.